guys, and welcome back to the Layah Heilpern show. We are quite a few episodes in now, so I'm really excited. We have a really cool guest today, but before we do, want to say a quick thank you and a quick shout out. So this is powered by Icon. Icon Plus are super excited to announce that it will be integrated into Orbit Bridge, developed by Orbit Chain, bringing many Ethereum assets to the Icon project and bridging top blockchains, including Icon, Clayton, Ethereum, and Terra. I also want to say a quick thank you to my sponsors, BlockFi. So I do use them. I earn up to 8.6% interest on my USDC. An announcement actually came out today about the Bank of England. They're offering, I think it's 0.01% interest. So if 8.6% interest sounds great to you, then I'll leave the link below. You can get $250 when you sign up. And before I bring on my really exciting guest, another quick shout out to CoinFlip. So they're doing some incredible work across the States to push Bitcoin mass adoption. They now have 1,200 Bitcoin ATMs. So I'm going to leave a code below as well. You can get 10% off there. So joining me today is crypto trader, advisor, ex-DJ and music producer. It is Scott Melker. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I've seen all, I'm watching your tweets, I'm watching your content, and it's good just to speak to the person directly. It's been pretty crazy, the last couple of days, and we'll talk about Bitcoin, but I kind of want to learn a little bit more about you, understand Wolf of All Streets, where that came from. But I want to go back to the music because you were a music producer and a DJ. So what happened? Why are you not doing that anymore?
Age. I just kind of aged out, to be honest. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Dazed and Confused, but Matthew McConaughey has a famous character and a famous line in that movie. And he says, talking about high school girls, and he says, I get older, they stay the same age. Well, that's how I felt about DJing. I kept getting older, but the people I was DJing to never got any older, right? And so at one point I was like in my mid to late 30s. My wife was at home with my daughter and I was out traveling and playing shows at like fraternity houses. And like 20-year-old kids were trying to get me drunk and all I wanted to do was go home and FaceTime with my daughter. And it's just, kind of unsustainable. There are people who can do it. And listen, there's amazing DJs who are in their 60s, 50s, 60s who have been doing it, but that's a very select group that sort of, I think, live for that lifestyle. So partially it was, I guess, choice, and partially, I just slowly became less passionate about it and less relevant. To be quite honest, like if you're not passionate about it at that age, there's always a 20-year-old killer DJ who's like coming to take the title. You know what I mean? So, and it coincided very well with my sort of discovery of crypto. I was already trading and loved trading. And so it's kind of my nature to become extremely focused on singular things, which is weird. I have ADHD, but that can sometimes manifest in hyper focus on certain things and ignoring everything else. And that became crypto for me. And it just sort of went from there.
Yeah, that's cool. I like to hear, some people talk about ADHD like it's a bit of a nightmare when it comes to, just getting on and stuff. But that's really cool to hear that, it made you focus on one thing. I guess priorities just change, don't they?
Yeah, it's just life, everybody always kind of thought I was nuts in all of my life decisions throughout, I went to an Ivy League university and then passed on Wall Street to DJ, and I started like 4 failed or moderately successful companies during that time. It was always some crazy whimsical idea. I don't know. I just, my priorities sort of shift with the wind, or like I said, with what I'm feeling particularly passionate about at a time. But there does come a certain age where, well, it's not even age, it's having kids and having a family. Like you can't really focus purely on yourself. I was very selfish, in my pursuits and everything. That was a very big struggle to get there mentally. But once you have kids and you see how important it is to spend time with them, everything changes. Everything.
Okay, so family is obviously huge for you. I think that's one of the most adorable things on your feed, to be honest. I'm always seeing your kids and, your relationship with your wife on Twitter. Twitter is full of trolls, and crypto Twitter particularly, it can be quite dangerous, right? So I'm just interested, how come you're comfortable putting your family, I guess your wife's already on Twitter, but like showing your kids, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't even put their names out there,
I get that question all the time. So one is that I was doing it before I was involved in crypto. So to some degree, there was no putting the cat back in the bag. Like I never was pursuing a career in crypto as a influencer or whatever. Like I was just a dude with some followers from music who started talking about crypto, right? And so for whatever reason it built, but it was never like a business decision ever. So I just always sort of behaved as I always did. And I believe, and it's not to begrudge anyone who is anonymous, because I am jealous of them at times. I wish that I could just go about my life in that manner. And it is dangerous, as you said. Like some of the stories I could share are pretty nuts, hacks and threats and things like that. But at the end of the day, like I feel like somebody has to do it. Like and I'm not saying like I'm some great example or anything, but somebody has to be out there showing what real life looks like. And so, yeah, like I overshare. I get a lot of comments on that. I don't think I'm putting my children in danger. If I legitimately did, I wouldn't do it. But I was a public figure to some degree before, and I always have been. So like, there's no hiding my personal information anymore. You know, it's just, it's not going to happen. So there are a lot of advantages to being doxxed and being yourself, as you know, right? I mean, you probably wouldn't have Icon, BlockFi, and CoinFlip listed on the bottom of this if you were a cartoon unicorn. That's true. You know? And as this space grows, there will be, you know, more tremendous opportunities, I think, for people who are showing their faces and whatever. I think the irony of the whole thing is because I show my face, I get called a fake more often than people who don't.
I know. It's so funny, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you make some interesting points. I think I can totally relate because I was online before crypto, you know, especially because I'm a millennial. So I'm in my 20s. So, you know, I guess growing up as a teenager, like there are pictures of me as a baby in my dad's arms on MySpace. So no one go look for that. Don't do that. But yeah, there are pictures there. And I guess you can't really do much about it at that point. But I think you're right. You know, when you say somebody has to do it, like how is this thing going to go mainstream if we're all just hiding behind avatars? You know, for somebody to rely and like trust in something, there needs to be a level of accountability, and you don't have that if we're all anonymous.
Yeah. And listen, when I was younger, I was a bit of a troll myself. Just in the DJ community, it was very similar, like a lot of competition. That guy sucks. That guy's not even DJing. He's fake, like all that, you know, it kind of echoed the same thing. And I was definitely like a loudmouth sort of there. I was less mature. But like, so I'm kind of, the trolling thing doesn't bother me. I actually like every time somebody tries to troll me, I like giggle on the inside and I share it with my friends. I'm sure you've seen me reading my DMs, you know, like
I love that one. That was so good.
Because like,
I need to do that.
I mean, these people don't know me, you know what I mean? Like that. And I feel like I'm being transparent, but like haters are going to hate, you know, and it's fine. And if it sort of helps propel the space forward doing my small part, I'm more than happy to like take the abuse of a few cartoons, you know, but like you said, it does sometimes verge on uncomfortable territory, you know, like sim swappings and being targeted for hacks. And I've had people, you know, send me personal photos they shouldn't have had of, you know, things in my own town. So like, as if they were like watching us, you know, things like that. So
wow,
that's all very strange, but, you know,
that's pretty insane. I mean, you're obviously much bigger than I am. I've not experienced that. The only thing I experienced, which wasn't off, it was just kind of like a weird thing. I was in Romania, and I was walking, and some guy just comes straight up to me. He's like, "You're Layah," and I'm like, "I am."
That's just cool. Yeah, that's just cool. Though.
I was like,
nice to be recognized. Yeah,
it was weird. I didn't know how either. I had like no makeup on and my glasses on, so I was just like, oh, clearly I look the same. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Flattered without my filters.
Literally. You tweeted yesterday, which I thought was really interesting, that this year has changed your opinion on a lot, from like politics to money. Tell me about that. I'm so fascinated by that.
Yeah, I think that a lifetime of experience sort of implants ideas in your head, right? You start as a child, and all of your core beliefs are the beliefs of your parents, or your community or whatever you're immediately surrounded with, right? See it, religion, nationalism, all of these things. If like I was raised Jewish, right? But if I had been born in Iran and I was raised, my whole life view would be different and of no doing of my own, right? Just where I landed and what I was surrounded by. So, then you kind of grow up, you go to college, you get like maybe more exposure, another life view. And then through life, I think you just sort of evolve. And even in my 20s and 30s, I think I was very stuck in like sort of value systems that I just assumed were right or whatever. And I think you really start thinking for yourself in your 30s, and then you start to get yourself in your 40s, and then you totally know yourself, apparently, according to Oprah, in your 50s. But like I even tweeted yesterday, maybe yesterday, I was like, basically anything you think you probably believe in your 20s, you'll like shake your head at in your 40s. Like my 20-year-old self would troll my 40-year-old self, and my 40-year-old self would go choke my 20-year-old self. You know what I mean? Yeah. But this year has been a great accelerator for a lot of things. Obviously, we're all in the Bitcoin space. We all understand that. But like, I understood that fiat was a scam. Obviously, I'm into Bitcoin. But seeing how the world and central banks and monetary policy was crafted after COVID started, if you couldn't change your opinion fundamentally, like even if you had some hope or you figured, hey, I have some trust in the system, like my government will take care of me, please. Right. So, and so 2020 was interesting, I think, in that regard. But then we also had the election, right? With like probably the most polarizing president or candidate in history, regardless of your feelings on him as a candidate or as a person. Like, I have a lot of stories. Like I went to school with Trump Jr.
Really?
One of the first times I went viral, unfortunately, was because of that, a story I shared about them at the last election. If you think I had to hide from people on crypto Twitter, you should have seen me hiding from Trump supporters in 2016.
Yeah.
But that if you hate one candidate, sort of pushes you towards the other. But then one day, I think you take the red pill and realize, fuck them all. And that's sort of, sorry, I don't know if I can say that in a show, but and that's sort of that was sort of 2020 for me. I grew up, as a Democrat. Like I was, my parents marched on Washington and went to Woodstock and were hippies, but then they became, more moderate as they aged, like anyone else. There's that famous quote: "If you're in your 20s, like if you're not liberal, you have no heart. If you're in your 40s and you're not conservative, you have no brain." Right. So, but now I think you find yourself in the middle, and then eventually you just quit altogether. And I think I'm kind of sort of at the latter. I view Bitcoin and what we're doing as a way to opt out. I view it as true freedom. And I don't think that any of these people can represent me or my beliefs.
Yeah. I mean, you make so many points there, in terms of like, okay, so your parents were Democrats. Yes. If you're not a Democrat when you're younger, you don't have a heart. If the other way, you don't have a brain. Right. But I mean, like, things have become far more polarized anyway. So I imagine, even if they kept their views, you probably find they're a lot more moderate and center anyway, just because things have become.
Absolutely. Normal. Like, I still make the argument that probably I'm only speaking for the United States, but probably true everywhere. Okay. I believe that 90%, call it 80% of the people here are just middle of the road. And if they actually sat down to think about their beliefs, they would find that they're middle of the road, but most of them are just in this sort of like zombie-like mass media state of believing whatever, the news station they watch has been pounding into their brain indefinitely over time. I think most people don't really think for themselves, but once they do, I think you'll find that, hey, some of the stuff those guys say is really true, and some of the stuff these guys say is really true. And I have my mixed basket of beliefs and emotions, and I'm me. Right. And I don't have to be either of them. But I will say one other thing that was huge in 2020 because of the fiscal policy and the monetary policy and the way that we've seen now both parties react is that there is no more fiscal responsibility in government on either side. Like Republicans used to claim they were the fiscally responsible party. That was Reagan, like Reagan and Bush. But then Clinton balanced the budget, right? But then since then, it's been money printing. Money printing has no party. Money printing has no politics. And money printing is what's destroying people's lives. Forget all the like things that all the wagging the dog and all the distractions and all things you're looking at. At the core of it all is the fact that you're not making more money and your money's worth less. And that's what's destroying people's lives.
Yeah, you make an insane point. I was actually going to touch on that. It's exactly the same in the UK. So we have the Conservative Party in right now, and we're all just like, can you bring back the Conservative Party? Like, I feel like we have a left-wing government in, right? Just because naturally those are kind of the socialist policies that you'd imagine seeing, like, not necessarily money printing, but yeah, you follow me. So that's exactly what we're saying, what we're seeing here. And I'm also feeling really apolitical. So in terms of Bitcoin, then what was that orange pill, red pill moment that got you into it? Was it the underlying, because I know that we say it's apolitical, but in my opinion, I often find it kind of is political just because it's all about like being left alone, right? And that tends to be a libertarian, I don't want to say right wing because that also means something else. These names are all jumbled up, but yeah, for me, it's political. What about you?
I think it's very fair to say that it's political. I just can't assign it to either party. And I think that that's an important distinction. So like, yes, it's political, absolutely. But I think it's sort of a way to rage against the machine of politics itself, right? So to be apolitical in itself is political to some degree, right? Because you would prefer that there was a party or a politician who still represented you. You just can't find one that does. And that's why you're sort of apolitical, right? So that's one. Bitcoin, I came for the money, not for the Bitcoin. Like I was trading, you know what I mean? And there was this like mythical land of 100x altcoin pumps happening, and my friends were getting into it and telling me about it, you know, and I came for that. And I sort of like, you know, backed into, I guess, the importance of actual Bitcoin, even until last year. And listen, like I get trolled constantly for like shit I used to say, but guess what? I've changed my opinion. I've changed my opinion and I'm not deleting it. You know, like go back and find it. I'll answer for it. It's fine. But like even a year ago, I was like aggressively like 5% of your money, maybe 10% if you're crazy in crypto. This is volatile, like it could whatever. And this year it's like, I ain't rebalancing. I'm riding this thing as far as I can ride it because it's important. So I used to be in it to make dollars because I would make the point, I can't pay my kids' private school tuition and my mortgage. Now I want more Bitcoin, like genuinely. You know, and so I think for me, the real big aha moments still happened this year. I think there were seeds of it last year. And listen, if you were here in 16 or 17, which is kind of when I started, like I really got into it in early 2017, and you rode the bear market, like with it, when you still had a passion for it, then you certainly had some belief in it. But like now you're seeing all the things that you were called crazy for actually play out. I talked to Jameson Lopp. I don't know if you know him. If you don't, you should have him on the show. You know, one of the original cypherpunks and whatever. And that was what he said. He's like, I don't even give a shit that the price has gone up so crazy. I'm just happy that nobody's calling me crazy anymore, and I can laugh at all these people after 10 years. You know, and it really there is some like satisfaction, I guess, in that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm seeing like I told you so tweets and all this stuff, but I think that's really interesting because you've said, you know, you've been here since like 2016, 2017, but it was really this year that just sort of, I guess, kind of like brought everything to a crescendo, and you were really able to sort of see that value, that true value.
Yeah, I think I just got really so disgusted with everything this year. And
yeah,
Bitcoin's a great answer for being disgusted with everything. It really is.
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic, which I want to get into, because people look at Bitcoin as this, like you said, when you don't have a party and you're apolitical, you go to Bitcoin and you sort of feel like, you know, it's all about freedom and independence and personal responsibility and so on. But it's interesting. So I had Raul Pal on the show the other day, and his opinion is that this freedom, obviously I hope I've interpreted this correctly, but from what I understood, he was sort of saying that it's all a narrative, and this idea of freedom and, you know, we're independent and with this and with that and privacy, he sort of said it's just a narrative and it's not true. It's something that maybe you could call it propaganda or whatever it is, but it's something that we're playing into, and regulation's inevitable, and that we will never have this kind of like you know, utopia, this utopia whereby, you know, we're all free and, you know, we're exchanging peer-to-peer, and did you sort of think that we're actually going to get to this perfect future?
No, I mean, I think I am somewhere in the middle of that. I mean, I agree with the sentiment of what he's saying, but that doesn't diminish the importance of what we're doing, right? And it's a catch-22, because like if you want your Bitcoin to rise, you need other people that don't know about Bitcoin yet to want to buy it, Right. So like if all these people were talking about getting like filthy rich on Bitcoin, you need all those things to happen. Regulation is obviously coming. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I don't think Bitcoin can be banned by any stretch, but like they can certainly make it really, really difficult to get your money in and out. You know, I think that's the fear of regulation that would be worth having. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still the best shot that we have. No, I don't think, and also like, I think the Bitcoin sort of peer-to-peer narrative has somewhat died. I know that that's the white paper, you know, peer-to-peer cash. I think that it's been solidified as, you know, store of value, gold 2.0. And to be quite honest with you, I think a stable coin is a better peer-to-peer cash than Bitcoin is. It sends faster. You get the same amount that you see. The person receiving it gets the same amount of money that you sent, you know. I don't know if that's a hot take or controversial, but I think that people want to hold their Bitcoin now, and that's better. That's what it's for.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a hot take, should it? But it is, because people are sort of like, well, stable coins enable the fiat system, you know, it enables it. But no, I'm totally with you. You know, I mean, even in terms of like earning passive income, you know, you get great interest on your stable coins. I think it's all personal. It all depends on what you want. I definitely see Bitcoin as more of a store of value. I'm totally with you on that. So, but unfortunately, it is controversial.
Right. But, you know, as he's saying, it will become a part of the system and it'll become regulated. But if you have a true deep belief in Bitcoin, like you always have that possibility in your mind that the system fails.
Yes.
Right. So if the entire system fails, Bitcoin will become that crazy, you know, dystopian, not utopian, but thing that sort of people talk about. So I think, like I said, I think it's both. Like they can regulate it to death. They can do all these things. They can turn it into Wall Street. But if Wall Street fails and if central banks fail and if we see hyperinflation, Bitcoin will return to that thing that we're talking about. So I think it's a bit of both. Right now, the world's not, as much as the world looks like it's collapsing. It's not. The dollar's not collapsing. It's dropping. But we're not seeing hyperinflation, all those things. So in the context of the existing environment now, I think he's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just a narrative, you know, like you said, even if everything does fail, the technology is still there. If we end up in a situation like Venezuela, there have been issues in Nigeria. You know, if we end up in that kind of situation, then we have Bitcoin and we still have the technology. But you are a trader, so I want to know, because I actually don't trade. I mean, not in the way that you do, but what are the key things you look out for in a good trade?
So like I always sort of go out there and say that trading is basically gambling. It can be really fun. It can be really profitable. But to be clear, like I'm an investor first. Even though I trade quote unquote professionally, I still will only trade with 15% of my capital. Like sometimes if the market's really good, I'll go up, but I'm generally at least 50% in long-term investments, 15% in cash, and like 15%, 70% investment, 15% cash, 15% trading. So even though I'm a trader, like I'm not dumb enough to do it with all of my money, you know? And historically, probably my investments have done better than my trades, you know? So that's kind of, you know, just to be clear there. What I'm looking for, like the way I approach trading, I love charts. I love technical analysis, but I have no fallacy that it predicts the future or is any sort of science, right? I view technical analysis as a risk management tool, just a way for me to justify in my own mind where I want to buy something, where my idea is invalidated, so where to put my stop loss, and where I want to sell it to take profit. So you can do that in a million ways, right? You can, like, I don't know, sacrifice baby kittens if it gives you like the right entry. It doesn't matter. Or you can use Elliott waves or RSI. It doesn't matter, right? So I believe in charts as a risk management tool, but at the end of the day, all that matters in trading is being able to control your emotions and actually play out your plan without changing it in the middle. Like you have to let your stop loss hit. Like that, if you have to let your stop loss hit, and you have to actually sell when you're in profit and not get greedy and think it's going to go higher, and that's all trading is, and almost nobody can do it. I was terrible at it. Terrible at it for a really long time. Oh, terrible.
Do you take fundamentals into account when you're trading?
I do now. And I always did like with stocks, and like when you trade a stock, you buy a stock because you think it's a good company, right? So like that's why crypto was always so fun, because it was like this crazy no fundamental world where you could just like look at these charts and trade, and things would go and made you feel like this genius, but in reality you're probably just there and you're lucky. But now I think that the market has somewhat changed. So I like take less trades and I make more sort of investments. There's all these, opportunities, I guess, because I have a following or people know me or whatever, but pre-sale opportunities and all these like new DeFi projects and stuff. I'm aggressively sort of looking for opportunities to invest in things really early and sort of approach it that way. Although like, and I think that long-term is more profitable, and that's fully fundamental, right? Like if you're getting in before there's even a chart, or sort of the days that they launch. So like, I think like my investor mode has gone like full meth head this year. And, trading has, I do it a lot, but like trading has taken largely a backseat because it's not like 2017 where it was like full FOMO. Like now I think you can actually pay attention to the fundamentals of projects. And listen, it's really hard to pay attention to the fundamentals of old projects that have bag holders that are down 90%. But like new stuff, I think there's a lot of opportunities to find ones that could really be like impactful companies.
You don't have to answer this, but I'm just wondering, is there anything which sort of looks interesting to you? There are a lot of new projects this year, particularly DeFi projects. Is there anything that you're looking out for in 2021?
There are so many. There are so many. Actually, today I'm talking a friend of mine, Benjamin Minshew. I don't know if you're familiar with Elrond or
Sounds really, yeah, of course. Yeah. I've been speaking about them. They're really interesting.
I love them and I love him. I had him on my podcast many months ago, and I just like believe in their project. So I'm really excited about what they have. And literally, like I'm talking to him today again. Been begging him to come back and chat with me. So really passionate about them. Utrust is a company I really, really love. Yeah. Their coin is UTK. It's funny. I do this, what we're doing right now. Like I have people on my podcast and then I become like a super fanboy and I go buying their coins. So that's, I had Sonia Khan on, but I've been, I have a newsletter, and Utrust has been working on figuring out a way to do recurring crypto payments, which nobody's been ever able to do. So I've been working with them for a long time on something like that. Polka Starter, POLS is the coin, is like one I'm really excited about. And their first IDO is launched today. Maha's out. Like there's just so many. And like so many of them are going to go to complete shit. Like 99%, not the ones I'm mentioning, I don't think, but like, but I think that this time, like we're seeing the rug pulls and all that craziness, and that shit is really sad and unfortunate. But most of these people are very intentioned people with brilliant ideas, and some of them are just going to be incredible, and most will just fail for whatever various reasons that these projects fail. But if you're in a position monetarily to like throw money at 10 of them and accept that like 7 might go to crap, but 3 of them will make you rich, then Godspeed, do it.
I like it. I like the mentality. I mean, people always ask me, where do you see this thing going in 10 years? And I'm like, well, let's say 90% of these projects won't be here anymore.
I'm surprised that I thought we'd have seen it already from a lot of early stuff. Yeah, I mean, but they're still, congrats, still hanging around.
Yeah.
Traders are driving most of that though.
Yeah, that is true. I want to talk about Bitcoin because it is going crazy. I think before we went live, it was, there we go. So it's at 23,500, which is pretty insane. I want to get your thoughts just generally on this year, Bitcoin's performance. It dropped in March when all the news came out, but then it sort of just snapped right back ahead of everything. So did you expect that? And did you expect that?
I did. And I have a long history of tweets to prove it for anyone who says that I'm hindsight, whatever. So like, I don't think and maybe unfairly, like I've never particularly turned bearish on Bitcoin. There've been times when I shorted it like as a trader, but in general, not at all. So March was scary.
Yes.
It was scary. And, so I was like, standing on top of the hill, just taking shots, saying that Bitcoin was an uncorrelated asset and never sort of changed that narrative. And when it all dropped, everybody obviously came after me like, how's your not correlation now? And, I try to explain to people that in those terrible moments for that 1 or 2 weeks, things are horrible and everything correlates and drops. But we've seen now what Bitcoin has done relative to everything else. So hopefully I found some vindication in that. But yes, I did expect it to come back. So for two reasons. First of all, I think we had the beginning of that drop in March was flight to liquidity, right? So you had like bigger players that had tried to get exposure. You couldn't sell a bond, right? Literally, there was nobody there to buy your bonds, which is insane. So bigger players had to sell Bitcoin because it's liquid. You can literally get your cash out of Bitcoin anytime, any moment, which is a good thing, but bad at that moment. And then that maybe sent it from 9,000 to 7,000, 6,500 on March 12th. And then there's no question that BitMEX destroyed the market that day. Their liquidation engine just started firing like liquidations of 15, 20, $30 million shorts into a market, and there was no orders to buy them. So price went all the way down to 3,800. They turned it off, or they would have literally sent it to zero. There was a point on their books where there was like only $15 million left from 0 to 3,800 in buy orders, right? So, and that's why we saw it snap right back to 6,000 like 12 hours later. So like I view the back half of that entire move as just the Wild West YOLO casino that is Bitcoin, right? And not something that really was like fundamental. And we've risen steadily from there, and there was never a doubt in my mind that we were on our way back. I never thought we'd go to 1,000 or 2,000. And frankly, like, and I even wrote about this literally today in my newsletter, like there's a very big difference between the value of something and the price of something.
Okay.
And Bitcoin especially, right? I mean, if the value is really the fundamentally what something is worth, and the price is what someone's willing to pay for it at any given moment, right? Holders held through all of that. They didn't give a shit. Like they knew that it would rise again. And we're seeing the fundamental value of Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation, as a store of value, all these things. And that has not been reflected in the price most of this year. And now the price is catching up to the value, in my opinion. And that value is real when you see MicroStrategy and Stanley Druckenmiller and Paul Tudor Jones and every billionaire on the planet now talking the book and saying that they're coming in. And that shit does not happen randomly. They don't buy an asset that does not have value, and they're not buying it to sell it $1,000 higher. Right. And so people, and they're also not buying it if they have any legitimate fear intel that the government is going to ruin that for them. You don't think Michael Saylor has a friend at the SEC who he calls before he buys $1 billion worth of Bitcoin? Give me a break. Right.
Damn. When you put it like that, Scott.
These guys are not buying something that's going to be regulated to zero. It's just not happening. They are like Goldman's, like these JP Morgan, these guys, they are the treasury. Right. I mean, like, it's a revolving door between Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and the government. And so, I think that the value of Bitcoin is much higher. I think that these companies that want it as a treasury asset, that believe that they need to have exposure to protect their cash, like it's not even big enough, or the price isn't high enough yet for them to buy. Apple can't put 0.5% of their treasury in Bitcoin without buying every Bitcoin on the planet, right? So like the market cap needs to be in the trillions, like gold, and they will.
Yeah, no, I think it's insane. You mentioned it was scary. Someone just wrote in the comments, which I think is really funny. Well, it's not funny, but I'm happy for him now. So someone writes, lol, in March, I saw my life savings drop 50%, but I just kept hodling and buying more. Good for you, Kevin.
It's conviction. And that works as long as, listen, if you're an investor that you have belief in something, you shouldn't even be checking the value of it.
Yes.
Every day. Like it should be like your long-term investment portfolio should have a 30, 40-year timeline and horizon. And you should be looking at it every 6 months to see if you need to like slightly tweak something. I mean, I used to buy SPY, which is, like SPX basically. Like I still do monthly, just dollar cost averaging. It's basically the best way to just track the stock market. And I started doing this in like 2006 or 2007 when I finally had like a little money and I could do it. And like, immediately we hit this crazy recession, like global recession, and it dropped, 50, 60%, whatever it was. And like, it was just going in the background. I never thought about it. And then like by 2020, like literally every single purchase of SPY I'd ever done since 2006 was in profit.
Good.
You know, and if you have a long time horizon, like he's talking about, like you're buying those dips. That's what you want to do. I talked to Peter Brandt the other day, actually, you know, the famous trader, and he said to me, he's like, I tell my kids that you should buy a company that you like and hope the price goes down 50% so you can buy more.
Yeah, that's conviction. That's absolute conviction. Like my brother, I was talking to him about Bitcoin today because I told him to buy at 10K, and he was like, no, I'm gonna wait till it gets a bit under. I was like, it's not going under. And you know, he's asking me now, oh, are you gonna sell? He's like, Layah, you should sell. And I'm like, no, because what's the point? Like I think it's gonna go higher. Like I think 100K, I don't know when, but
Sure.
you know, I think 100K, I think 400K, I think gold 2.0. So there's, so, you know, it's so funny. It's like 23K and my brother's like, why don't you sell? And I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense. So we've hit new highs. We're in price discovery mode. Tell me, what do you think is going to go? What's going to happen? I mean, a lot of people are talking. I've had 100K by Q1 of 2021. I don't know how I feel about that. What do you think?
Nothing makes you look like a jackass more than a wild price prediction that doesn't come true. So I try very hard not to make them, because sort of like you're saying, you're not selling it. So why does it matter? Right? Like, I don't care. I mean, I don't want the price to go down. I don't want to have $6,000 Bitcoin again anytime soon. That would be really bad. But I think those numbers are in play. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't know what the timeline is for that to happen or when it would happen, but I'd be very, I mean, you know, it was what, 3,800. I mean, we're up 6-7 times already since March. Like, just doubling from here is almost 50 grand. And percentage moves matter much more than the fixed number, right? That's why, like, most traders use logarithmic charts, because a $25,000 move, even let's say a $1,000 move from 19,000 to 20,000 is nothing compared to a $1,000 move from 2,000 to 3,000, right? That's a 50% move. So you get caught up in now these numbers, but the bigger numbers make sense in the context of percentage growth. And that's what you're concerned. So even a 2x from here puts us near 50,000. I'd be very surprised if we didn't do a 2x from here at some point in the next year or two. But I think the higher targets are in play. Like, I don't think 300, 400 are insane. And I will be pretty disappointed if we don't hit 100 at some point.
Yeah, of course. When do you think the FOMO is going to absolutely come piling in? I say 50K.
I think like 40, 50. I think it's starting. I'm definitely getting the it's just so funny. Like, I told people, like, I couldn't have screamed louder. Like, Bitcoin's $6,000. Buy it. Just buy it. Just buy some. And now the same people who didn't want it now are asking me if they should buy it at $23,000.
I know. Do you know what really frustrates me? It's kind of like, so I'm just like here, head down, working in the crypto space, like really just like giving it, you know, I guess, like, you know, your career's gambling on it. You know, my friends are off doing like PR and medicine and law and whatever they're doing. And then I get the call, Layah, so, like, you know, how do I buy Bitcoin? And I'm like, oh. Yeah,
like, you don't, it's like, you know, you need it. You need them to, like, come in eventually, but also, like, they start to be top signals, you know? So, like, it's like such a catch-22, like, stay out of here, but also we kind of need you. Like, somebody's going to have to, whenever the top is, somebody's going to have to buy it. Right. So yeah, I want to get your thoughts as well on Ethereum. So I think that touched, was it $700 yesterday or just under $700? I'm not really watching Ethereum that much right now, but probably should. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's going to get to 1K before Bitcoin gets to 25? What are your thoughts? I mean, that would be a really bad bet as a gambler, just because that's like almost a 50% move for Ethereum, and it's like a couple percent from here for Bitcoin. So no, I mean, even if I thought that, like, if I was a gambling man and you gave me odds, I would take Bitcoin hitting 25 first. But I think Ethereum is going to perform better than Bitcoin. Oh, really? In the long run, or just in 2021? In the coming months and years. I think that even rationally, you know, Bitcoin's past its all-time high and Ethereum's at half its all-time high. So even if it just reaches an all-time high, it's 100%, you know, it's a doubling move. And so I would see that happening. Largely the DeFi boom is happening on Ethereum, whether that means Ethereum itself has to go up or not. But, like, Ethereum is being used literally every single day. Like if you've ever been on Uniswap or something and paid gas fees, then you definitely know like Ethereum is being used. People need it. So there's a legitimate demand for it. Also, like we're starting to see sort of the same hints of what we saw with Bitcoin earlier this year with institutions with Ethereum. Like we hear everyone talking about Bitcoin, but then all of a sudden, like Grayscale last week was like, well, we're getting a lot more calls about Ethereum than we are about Bitcoin and our Ethereum trust. And Grayscale is like, not only have they bought all the Bitcoin that's been mined and more, they've bought more Ethereum than's been mined and more, you know, and that shows that there's real institutional and serious demand. And I'm trying to think who it was today. Guggenheim, you know, said that they want to buy a couple $100 million, and they said in Bitcoin and Ethereum evenly. So like, I think that rationally the same sort of FOMO we're talking about, there's people who like feel like they missed Bitcoin who maybe won't feel like they missed Ethereum and can get it quote unquote cheaper, you know? So I think that there's a lot of things that line up for Ethereum to do very well. And you know, and Ethereum 2.1 has been successful. You know, they managed to well overshoot the amount they needed staked. I just think there's a lot of bullishness, and I don't think you have to like choose one or the other. I think it's fine to like both. I don't view Ethereum as a store of value. I don't view Ethereum as digital gold. I view it as a great platform that has a chance to grow and appreciate. And so it's like that whole like hatred of the two communities is so weird to me. It's like, can you imagine like all the people who love Tesla just being super pissed at everyone who likes Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, so, okay, two things here. So firstly, the CEO of Altcoin Buzz once said to me, so his name's Shash, I think he's amazing. He once said to me that Ethereum is the Amazon. It is Amazon and Bitcoin is gold. And I just love that comparison. I thought it was amazing.
I think that's even better, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. Okay, so like tribalism, right? Is like huge in this space. And I think I tweeted a few months ago something like, imagine not liking somebody because they prefer a different coin to you. And holy shit, like that blew up. And, you know, I had Adam back in the comments writing stuff, calling things like Ethereum a scam. I think maybe he called Cosmos a scam, and Ponzi schemes or whatever. So why do people just like really hate on Ethereum? You know, we're having a really normal conversation right now. Why are we not able to do this? Why is it Bitcoin only? Why can't Ethereum, you know, be something different in its own right?
I don't know. I think well, no, I mean, it's a symptom of a larger problem, like in life. And we've talked about it already a bit. Like people are just tribalism is the norm, right? It's like my team, my country, my religion, my town, my, you know, whatever it is. Like people just, they like to like root for theirs. And there's people who are very early on Bitcoin, and I don't know if they see it as a threat or they just view like everything else as a distraction or what it is, but like to outwardly call something that's successful and has positive elements like a scam or something, it's just, I mean, it's just, it doesn't make sense. And to me, that's like, it's like showing your hand that you're like an overly emotional, just sort of like disheveled human person, you know? Like, why do you care? Even if you like really don't like it, maybe just like ignore it. Like just stuff that I really like don't like or agree with, I generally just ignore. Like I don't spend my energy on negativity towards something that doesn't affect my life. And I think that like it's just really like it's really crazy. And the fucked up thing is that like if everybody just stopped doing that, like they would all get so much richer. Like, because if everybody just worked together and was like generally positive about crypto as a whole, we're way too small to be like fighting amongst ourselves, you know? So if everybody who had a passion for any project or crypto or whatever was just sort of like, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats and said, hey, if Ethereum does great today, that's awesome because it brings more attention and, you know, my link will eventually rise or whatever it is. I think that we would get where we're looking to go so much faster. I think these people are just really emotional, and they're just like, it's a matter of being right and wrong, and which doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think, you know, if you say something like that, you know, you say something like we should call these things out because they're scams, and I wholeheartedly believe they're scams, and I think that's immoral. It's kind of like a social justice warrior kind of thing, because it's like, well, hang on, you're not following through. If you're such a moral person and you want to protect people, there are a lot of far more awful injustices going on in the world. So like, you could focus on that. If it really came from such a pure and moral place, which is like, exactly. I don't want to get too much into politics, but that's kind of like the situation in politics with social justice warriors. They're like talking about like microaggressions and all this stuff when you have like actual genocide going on, which they're not interested in talking about, which kind of, I don't know, some synergies, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you ever needed an example of that, which kind of like when we were talking about like changing your politics or whatever, like everybody stay inside, but it's totally cool to riot. Come on. Right. I mean, so we see examples of that kind of thing all the time. And I agree with you. I think it's just like, it's not their real feeling. It's just like a emotional reaction to something that it's just being triggered. Like, why does Ethereum trigger you if you like Bitcoin? Like, why?
No, I'm with you. It's funny. I have a few interesting topics I want to go through still before we head to the end. Sure. One which I want to touch on is Ross Ulbricht. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly. Am I saying it correctly?
Ross.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because Trump is coming to the end of his presidency. People say he's pardoning. He's pardoned some people already. He said he's not going to pardon Edward Snowden. He sort of went hard on that and was like, no, he did this, he did that. What are your thoughts on Free Ross? I know a lot of people in the community aren't actually all for freeing Ross.
I'm all for freeing Ross.
Yeah.
I had a long talk with his mom, so maybe I'm like biased because she's like the sweetest woman in the world and just like wants clemency for her son. But first of all, even if Ross was guilty of every single thing that they say he's guilty of, he got 2 life sentences plus like 40 years, right? Like El Chapo didn't even like get a full life sentence or something, like literal. And what's crazy is that the people, like a Silk Road 2 was started by people who were like legitimate criminals and drug dealers and stuff and got busted and got like short sentences. So like just the disproportionate punishment. So like, I think Ross probably should have gone to jail.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't believe he was hiring hitmen to kill people and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But like, I think he was very idealistic, like believed in libertarian things and tried to do something good, but maybe he broke the law some doing it and maybe deserved to go to jail for a while. It's enough, like 2.5 life sentences for letting some people buy weed on the internet. It's just absurd. And, like there's just these times when one person becomes the example for whatever reason. He took a fall for like the entire system, our entire space, whatever. And like, it's enough. Like, or tell the guy he has to stay for 5 more years and then let him out. You know what I mean? I don't know what the just punishment is, but I know that it's not 2 lifetime. He didn't kill anyone. They can't even prove that anyone like was hurt or died from anything that he allowed, and a lot of the things that they say it was just drugs, and like, whatever. It's not like people were selling children and weapons of mass destruction, all the things that people rumor that was happening. That's not what was happening. So I think, absolutely. I think it would be an amazing move by Trump to free him. And if he doesn't, I hope Biden does.
To be honest, it's really funny. I don't think Biden could care less. That's just my opinion on Biden. I think he's, without getting too into it, I think he's an absolute fake. I don't think I think he's a bit of a fake, to be honest. But I think you make a really interesting point. As a libertarian myself, I'm still very much like, I'm living in a civil society, follow the laws of the land. But absolutely, 2 life sentences plus whatever, I think people that actually rape charges are less than that. And in my opinion, that's one of the worst things you can do.
Rape charges are sometimes a slap on the wrist and like listed on a website or something. You know what I mean? Like there are people just doing far, far worse things. So yeah, like you said, to me, it's the disproportionate punishment that does not fit the crime that is really the biggest problem. Like I can't really I'm not a legal scholar. Like, I don't know the level to which he committed a crime or not. I've never dug in, but I know that whatever crime he committed doesn't deserve the punishment.
Yeah, and I think you make an interesting point as well that I think they were setting an example of him.
Yeah, they said it.
Yeah, they did, because they knew something was brewing, something brewed. Bitcoin is here, and setting an an example. But
if he started it now, he wouldn't have even gotten in so much trouble. It was also the world just wasn't ready for it. It's sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the world being ready for things, I want to get your thoughts, just as we come to the end of this, on mass adoption. What are we missing? When will it happen? We talk a lot about user experience, but I'm hearing other things in terms of like regulation and taxes and kind of just like the logistics being difficult.
Yeah, it's hard because it depends on how you like define mainstream adoption. There's people who are like, Bitcoin becomes the global currency and it's the only thing we transact in. Well, if that's what you're waiting for, we never get mainstream adoption, right? Because I don't think that that's going to happen. But if by mainstream adoption, we mean a asset that's respected and viewed like any other asset that can be traded legally with protections, I think that's here. Like we're within months. I think we're within months of what maybe you'd call mainstream adoption. Like, to me, almost at this point, when you look at it, mainstream adoption would be like more people using USDC than PayPal to send their money, or things like that have not happened yet and maybe will. But like, I don't think it's going to replace the whole system, but I think that it can be normalized within the system and still have its importance to those of us who are like really passionate about it in the community. And to me, that would be enough mainstream adoption. But like when you have billionaires putting it in buying it with their cash reserve of their company, that's pretty mainstream. I think we're kind of here. I think that there's levels to it, but I think that we've started. Maybe it's fair to say that we're, for the first time, we're scratching the surface of mainstream adoption.
Yes, that I can definitely agree with you on. I want to get to the point where I work with a guy in Brazil who isn't in crypto, but he edits some videos for me. Found him through Twitter. He's a great guy. But we've got to pay him through PayPal, and it's really annoying. And there's just no, like, his English isn't amazing. Like, there's no way I can sit down with him over Zoom and be like, here's how you open up a wallet. Like, let me pay you a bit. Like, no.
Well, central bank digital currencies are an inevitability. So very soon, whether you like it or not, everyone in the world pretty much is going to learn to transact digitally through a wallet, right? That might be 2 or 3 years away, but that is inevitable. Whether that's good.
And do you think it'll be the same though? Do you think it'll be like done the same way with the wallet and the address? And do you think it'll be done like that?
I think it'll be more simplistic than that, but I do think that you will have like a wallet on your phone and you will like tap whether a QR code or something else to send and receive a digital transaction. And once we have that level of understanding, I mean, if you go to China, everybody knows how to do that, right? Yeah. Once you spread that around the world, I think that, that'll only be good for Bitcoin and stuff, because if I'm given the option to pay with a digital dollar or with like some cryptocurrency, especially if it has privacy aspects, I'm certainly going to choose the latter, even though the first one is easy. So I think that what you're talking about is just a matter of time, but I really believe it's inevitable. Whether it's with a stable coin or some other digital currency, you can't microtransact across borders with any legacy system. Try wiring like $20 to somebody in Africa. You'll pay $20 on your end, they'll pay $20, and the $20 might arrive 7 months later. It's just that it can't be done. So especially for those lower end transactions, crypto really is the only answer. I'm not saying that's Bitcoin. Bitcoin's kind of clunky for that, but
yeah, I'm totally with you. I took a trip to Asia quite a few years ago. I was in Cambodia, and I remember he's not a cab driver, he was a tuk-tuk driver. We paid him $15 for the entire week, and for him that was so much money, right? So if we understand that, what's minimum wage or whatever, what's normal in that country, and let's say we were supposed to work with he's going to do some work with me across borders, I wouldn't be able to pay him whatever the wage is over there, So I think it's incredible that we're actually able to put people on the financial map. For me, that was actually my red pill moment. Not so much Bitcoin; it was more like blockchain, putting people on the financial map. for me, because I'm all about social good. I love a good social good project. So yeah.
Yeah, so do I. Hence why I leaned left as a kid, right? It was all about like social justice and helping people and stuff. And I still believe in all of those things. But yeah, I mean, most of the world is unbanked, right? Even in a lot of established countries, 6 or 7 out of 10 people don't have a bank account or access to banking and stuff, and that's just stupid. So like the goal now shouldn't be to get those people banked.
Yeah.
It should be to use this to just skip it, right? Like if you go to like if you talk to any American soldiers, a friend of mine, Andrew, who was the CEO of a company called Roundly X, like he was in Afghanistan, in the United States military, and he was like, we couldn't get running water, we couldn't get electricity, but there was a cell phone store like in every village. So like all you need is a mobile tower, and crypto is accessible to everybody in the world, right? Cheap phone, whatever. And so like at this point, you don't think about getting people banked. You just think about circumventing that system altogether.
Yeah, I love it. It just absolutely skipping financial revolutions, really. I think it's incredible. I love watching it. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. Before we say goodbye, where can people find you? Just promote yourself. You got a newsletter. Just tell us everything.
Sure, I'm the worst self-promoter in the world. That's what tanked my music career. But you can find me on Twitter at Scott Melker, SCOTTMELKER, and you can find the information for everything else there. I have a YouTube channel which I've just pretty much started in the last couple of months, and it's been really, really fun. I just love talking shit and live streaming and trolling the people in my comments. The newsletter, you can find the link to that. It's on I think it's GetReview/The Wolf Den, and then my podcast, which is also on my YouTube and Spotify, Apple, everywhere else. The Wolf of Wall Street's podcast. Those are the main things that I do that keep me extremely busy. But at the core of it, of course, is Twitter. So if you find me at Scott Melker, you'll find a very quick breadcrumb trail to everything else that I've got my hands in.
Sounds great. Scott, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to Icon Plus for powering it, BlockFi and CoinFit for sponsoring it. Guys, we'll see you next Thursday, 12 p.m. EST. Bye-bye.